Winning Blueprint presents.
5 minutes or less. Houston Texans.
Welcome. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is 5 minutes or less with the Houston Texans. I got 5 minutes on the clock. Let's get started. So the high point of the season for the Houston Texans. You look at week 7, and revenge is a dish best served cold. And that's exactly what the Texans set out to do and actually went out and did in week 7 against the Baltimore Ravens, a team that put them out of the postseason in the 2011 season. They were able to trounce them with a 30-point victory, really establish themselves as a team to be reckoned with in the National Football League, as the Texans got off to a red-hot start but were blown out the week before by the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football. So this game really elevated the Texans into a stratosphere that they had never experienced before in the regular season. Yet, this isn't the high point of the season for the Houston Texans. No, winning in the playoffs trump anything you do in the regular season. I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it again. And they won in Wild Card Weekend against the Cincinnati Bengals for the second consecutive season, giving them one more step closer to hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. And that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, you want to win the Super Bowl. And winning in the playoffs always gets you a step closer to calling yourself a Super Bowl champion. That's what they were able to do in Wild Card Weekend, and thus, that is the high point of the season for the Houston Texans. So now you look at the low point of the season for the Houston Texans. And there's no one particular moment that I'm going to point to, but rather a team was a low point for the Houston Texans in the 2012 season. And that's the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots were the low point of the season for the Houston Texans. Every time they saw the Patriots coming, there was always problems that ensued. You had the Week 14 drubbing on Monday Night Football. The Texans built it up as the biggest game in franchise history in terms of regular season play. They lost 42-14. It was never close. It was a blowout. The Texans wanted no part of the New England Patriots, and then they had to see them again in divisional round of the postseason. They lost again in blowout fashion, this time 41-28. And so the low point of the season was that loss in the playoffs, but more importantly and more specifically, the New England Patriots were the low point of the season for the Houston Texans. You look at free agency activity for this Houston Texans team, and it's test the waters.
The water.
And if you're the Houston Texans, you have about $13 million worth of cap space to work with. You don't have a lot of free agents that you need to bring back. A couple come to mind. Glover Quinn, your safety, could be brought back if you choose to. I think Connor Baldwin is a must. You need to bring Connor Baldwin back. I think that's someone that has to be back if you are the Texans. You need him out there at linebacker, at defensive end for you. So that's someone that needs to be back in the fold. But other than that, you're free to go spend your money elsewhere. And you do have needs on this team. And so if I'm the Houston Texans, I go out and I test free agency. I test the waters, see what's out there. Again, if you find some things to your liking, you bring them in and you sign them up. And you have money to do so. You have the flexibility to do so. And look, if you're the Texans, you're running out of time. This core group of guys, Schaub, Johnson, Foster, you're running out of time. These guys aren't going to be young forever, and so you got to start trying to bring guys in to help you take that next step. You got to get past divisional round of the postseason. You can't continue to lose every single season in the divisional round of the postseason. It's one thing to make it to the postseason. You've already eclipsed that. It's one thing to win a game in the postseason. You've already eclipsed that. Now it's time to take that next step. And you need to do that by testing the waters in free agency. So we find ourselves at our last point here, and we're talking about the state of the fan base in Houston. It's cautious Optimism if you're a Houston
Optimism.
Texans fan. And the reason I say that is because the Texans are questioning whether Matt Schaub can get it done at the quarterback position. Guys like Andre Johnson and Arian Foster, they're not old. They're not getting up there in age, but the hourglass is starting to tick. And so you got to know that the time is running out and you need to start making some things happen. You hear that sound in the background? That means that was the Houston Texans in 5 minutes or less.
Houston Texans. 5 minutes or less.